Can I submit two applications to different organizations for the same project or program that I am running? This is a very important question and leads to many other questions with regards to how to do this, if the answer is yes, and what are some of the implications that you have in terms of reporting, tracking, budgeting, and effective communication. This is a very important topic. So it can be a little tricky. There's a lot to consider, but generally speaking, the answer is yes. And in this video, I'm going to give you some guidelines on how to do this. I'm Benjamin Dean from grantgetting.com. I hope you enjoy this video and others like it on this channel, which are aimed at helping you get more grants. If you jump into the description on this video, there's a link for an additional resource on this topic that will be helpful to you in making this determination and in actually doing it. So let's jump in. High level, the answer to this question is yes. It's undoubtedly yes. Let's imagine you have a program or a project that you are running or you want to run, and you find a funder in your community or outside of your community, it doesn't matter. And that funder could potentially give you money to support your project or program. What does that mean? Let's say it costs you $100,000 a year. You currently have $50,000 in order to run this project. You need another $50,000. So this funder could provide you another $50,000. Let's say they have a cap of 75 and you're going to ask for 50. What does that mean? Does that mean you apply for $50,000 and that's your budget, right? You can't apply for anything else for anyone else, anywhere else. You apply, you have to wait a month and a half to maybe find out you got some, all, or none of that. Does that mean you don't fundraise at all? No, that's so ridiculous. No funder I have ever talked to thinks this way or says this. You need to be applying for multiple grants, multiple funding sources, multiple ways to bring resources into your organization for the same program or project. In fact, if you're not doing that, then that might be seen as, well, you don't really want to make this thing happen, do you? You're just sort of banking on this one opportunity coming through and saving you. That is not the right way to think about it. So if you can understand that funders don't want you to sit on your hands and wait, they want you to get out there and achieve your mission, to achieve your goals and reach your outcomes. You can understand the question isn't, can I do it? The question is, how do I do it and how do I do it well? Okay. So yes is the answer. Here's three things I'm going to cover. Understanding each funder's guidelines, the ethical considerations, and then developing a clear funding plan for your program. Okay, so number one, understanding each funder's guidelines. The first thing you should do is carefully review the guidelines for each funder that you are considering applying for. Some funders have certain stipulations around co-funding. I have never seen a stipulation that says we are to be the only funder on this project. If you have other funders, we're out. I've never seen that before. Now, I know of some organizations that really enjoy being a lead funder of a program, project, or initiative, but I've never seen it directly said that you can't have any other money in. We want to do the whole thing. Okay, that might be the case, but it might also, it's more likely not the case. So they might have encouragement actually to find other funders. If you can imagine yourself to be a funder, do you want the responsibility in totality of fully funding a project, program, or initiative? Maybe, maybe not. But if you are in the boat of wanting to empower nonprofit organizations as a funder to create an influx of cash such that that organization can create a sustainable funding source in the future, then that would be counter to this idea. So most organizations that are providing funding are like that. They don't want you to be completely reliant on them. It's important, though, to read all of the RFA and RFP and understand what is allowed and what isn't. And, of course, to be transparent early on about your intentions. If you're seeking funds from multiple sources for the same project, there is no shame in that. That is nothing that you need to hide. For the most part, everybody already knows that. And it's not a negative thing that you're doing it. In most cases, it's a positive thing. If you're going out there and you're applying for 2 or 3 grants a year and that's it, that's fine, but that doesn't show a lot of initiative, especially when there's billions of dollars out there to be applied for, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you swing the pendulum and say, we apply for every single grant that we possibly can, and we don't give a lot of thought into it. That's a little bit different too, but there's a balance, right? You are out there to raise money for a program, project, or initiative because you really care about it. It might even be worth reaching out to the grantor for clarification. This is a great reason to reach out. When you get to the point of the application that talks about the budget, there's sometimes, not always, but sometimes there is the expense budget side for a project, and then there's a revenue side. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't on the revenue side. When you get to the revenue side, I've seen applications that it's very clear. You list the potential income source, or the income source if it's already been committed but not yet received, the income source if it's already been received, and then the income source that hasn't been committed or received but has been applied for or will be applied for. And there are sometimes ways in the application to just clearly articulate that. Committed, not committed, or applied, right? And then those 2 columns typically are added up and you have your total budget, right? Where you are saying, we are applying for X number of dollars from your organization. We have also applied for X number of dollars from these 2 other organizations. We have also received X amount of dollars from these 3 other organizations. All total, that equals our budget. That, on the revenue side, covers the expense side. Okay? So it's very, very common to have this as part of a budget. And if it's not part of a budget, that's great because it gives you an opportunity to ask a really good question about how that funder wants to see in the budget or in the reporting or in other mechanisms how you are tracking both your expenses and your revenues. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is ethical concerns. There is a bit of an ethical line you need to walk when submitting multiple applications, and it's important, most importantly, you want to avoid double dipping, where you receive funding for the same thing and you are overfunded. Now, key to grant writing and grant getting strategy is to have contingency plans. Contingency plans if you're underfunded and contingency plans if you're overfunded. Okay? When you go out and receive funding, which happens very commonly, receive funding for the same project that actually puts you over the initial budget that you presented, there is a mechanism for you to reach back out and say, we have great news. We have received additional funding to support this project, and we would like to submit to you now an updated budget. You update the budget with expanded territory, expanded outreach, expanded services, things that within that grant application further increases the outcomes that you have already articulated. Okay, so some sort of expansion or strengthening type project. I have never seen a grantor say, oh, you got other money, we want to take our money back now because you got other money. Again, there may be exceptions to this, but in my experience, this is not the way funders think. They don't think, oh no, we're not the only one. Oh no, something changed. We want all of our money back. I've never seen it happen. The only reasons I've seen people not, actually receive the amount of dollars that they were committed by a funder or actually have dollars retracted is that they didn't report correctly, they didn't set up reporting mechanisms correctly, or they somehow misrepresented something, usually unintentionally, in the application, usually having to do with financial statements, like not having an audited financial statement or something like that. But it usually doesn't have to do, it has never had to do with you received more money. Now, if you receive more money and you change your program and then you don't tell the funder immediately before you do it, that is definitely grounds for you to have your money revoked because you didn't do the thing you said you were going to do. Okay, funders don't want to fund the same things twice, of course. If you're applying for multiple grants, you need to ensure that each funder is funding a distinct part of the project, program, or initiative, right? Depending on how that funder is structured in terms of what they can support and what they can't, there is, of course, ways to get your overhead covered in grant applications. Some allow for a certain percentage of indirect costs to just be tacked on, say 10% indirect cost rate. Others don't have that, and you line item out the management or the governance or the other aspects that affect that program indirectly, or is sometimes labeled overhead. So there's ways to move these things around, but you need to plan ahead to do it, and you have to be transparent. You cannot apply for 50 times your budget with no plan on what to do if you receive all of that money. That won't work at all. When you get an audit and it says, where did all this money go? And it didn't go to where you said it could go, then you're going to have to pay some of that back. And that can be not a fun thing. I've never gone through that. There's been one small grant in my experience that we intentionally refunded a portion of the grant that was for a piece of travel that we just ended up not being able to do. So we refunded that, right? But in terms of like what I've seen other organizations go through, or what I can imagine from the funder standpoint, having to have that conversation, these are the things that you need to be transparent about. There's no funder who funds projects in the community-based space that hasn't dealt with program changes. It happens every year. Okay? So that's really what we're talking about. Forget about being overfunded for a moment and say you put forth a plan, a project, a program plan, and in the course of implementing it, you found a better way to do it, or a way that was optimized in some way. Okay, so you're going to want to do that because it's better for the outcomes. All right, so changing a program in that case would involve reaching out to funders. Sometimes it's just picking up the phone saying, hey, we are one of the grantees, as you know. We just came across this really great opportunity. It changes a bit of the program. It maybe changes some of the outputs, doesn't change so much the outcomes. We're still going in that direction. We still have our program evaluation plan set up, but I wanted to call you because it is different. This is going to be different than what we said we were going to do in the application. And I wanted to call you first, and I wanted to see if this is amenable by your grant standards, and or if you need other documentation. This happens all the time. And the funder is going to congratulate you. They're going to appreciate. They might say, you know what, I need to check with somebody. Let me get back to you. They might say, that's totally fine. Just include that in the next quarterly update. No problem at all. Okay, so as long as you're proactive and you are transparent, in my experience, if it's not a huge deviation on what you said you were going to do, it is not an issue. Okay, so the things to keep in mind are your outcomes. Now, there will be exceptions to this, so you always just want to check. Okay, now number 3, we're thinking about applying for multiple grant opportunities for the same program. Where does the planning really come in? Well, there's an aspect of planning that is, what else can we do? Right? What other territories can we jump into? What other outreach can we do? What other costs that are even more indirect that could be covered? Totally legitimately covered by these grants, but we just selected the most direct ones first. You have all of that sort of in mind. There's the operational side of it and the financial side. So number 3 is really the funding plan. A detailed funding plan is essential when applying for multiple grants. This means identifying exactly how each grant will support your project and ensuring that there is no overlap once you receive them. Now, there will likely be overlap if you didn't change your program. Let's say you have a planned program that costs you $100,000 a year. And let's say you applied for $300,000 in total funding, knowing that there's no way you're going to get $300,000, right? Your likelihood of success is low on many of these grants, right? So you just intuitively know that. Now you can do that mathematically and logically with a probability analysis to say, okay, we have $300,000. They're spread across 6 grants for the sake of each. 6 grants, each for $50,000. We have 2 grants that we feel really good about. We believe that we have like a 60 or 70% chance of getting the full amount on these. That's awesome. That's going to get us to $60,000 or $70,000. But the rest of these grants, they're total guesses. I'm going to estimate 2 of them are 5% and 2 of them are 20%. 20% likelihood of getting that amount. So then you just say, okay, if it's 20% of $50,000, that's my probability, then that grant is worth to me $10,000, right? You can do that sort of analysis and say, okay, this is the expected value, and that gives you a ballpark. But what you also need to consider is if you're wrong in your favor and you get $150,000, if you get $200,000, what are you going to do financially? What are the costs financially for you to expand that program to be within your integrity on that program to make it better, while also receiving those dollars and not stressing out your staff, right? With, oh my gosh, now we have all this extra money and all these extra reporting requirements, but we're not actually doing anything different. You don't want to be in that scenario. So this is a lot of spreadsheet work. This is a lot of just saying scenario 1, scenario 2, gets you thinking what if analysis, if you have more or less than your budget, so that you or the organization as a manager can be prepared to make those decisions financially and operationally. Okay, so these are the 3 primary areas. By going through this, you'll be able to approach multiple grant opportunities with the same program. This is, again, extremely common and very, very necessary. In my opinion, successful grant writing includes this as part of the strategy. Okay, you're not just going to apply up to your budget. You will never get 100% of the grants that you write. Okay, you want to have that mindset, of course, but in reality, it's just not going to happen that way. So if you want sustainable funding through grant sources, this is a topic you need to devote more time into operationally and financially within your organization. There's 7 additional tips linked in a free download for how to do this, why to do this, and things to think about as you're doing this. So I hope you grab that as well. Thank you for jumping into this video. If you have any questions about this topic or any examples you want to share, put them in the comments below and I would love to respond. Thank you for jumping in, and I hope to see you in the next video.